Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome for our last panel of the day, and thanks for joining us for this very important topic, Life on Ukraine's Front Lines, a Modern Combat Experience. Now, today's discussion is going to focus on the human and operational realities of the war in Ukraine, what it's like to fight, adapt, and endure under conditions of current combat. The war in Ukraine has also underscored the extraordinary demands placed on not just the warfighters, but on their families as well. So we're very fortunate to be joined by three distinguished panelists who bring different but deeply complementary perspectives to this subject. First, Admiral Ihor Voronchenko, former commander of the Ukrainian Navy, who later served as Chief Inspector of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine. The Admiral has been one of Ukraine's most senior military leaders and brings a strategic and institutional perspective shaped by years of service during a period of profound national trial. Second, retired Colonel Mykhailo Pinkevich. Colonel Pinkevich is a Navy aviator by background and went on to serve as Deputy Chief of Staff of the Ukrainian Navy Command. After Russia's full-scale invasion in 2022, he returned to service, commanded a rifle battalion for 2 years, later moved to the Ministry of Defense on the Inspector General staff, and retired again in 2024. His experience spans the maritime domain, ground combat leadership, and senior-level defense oversight, giving him a uniquely broad view of the war. And finally, Mr. David Steinmeyer, whose 18-year-old son is serving in Ukraine in a drone unit. Mr. Steinmeyer offers a perspective that is at once personal and powerful, one that reminds us that modern combat is not only about tactics and technology, but it's also about families, sacrifice, uncertainty, and resilience. So we're honored to have each of them with us today. Each panelist is going to make some opening remarks, and after that we'll open up the discussion to questions from the audience. So Admiral, let's start with you.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I want to every citizen of the USA supporting my country. I bow my head to the fallen soldiers, citizens of the USA in this war against Russia and another war. We live in the very polar world, a world of tension and critical challenges. Right now, of tension and critical, the front line through every point of Ukraine for every Ukrainian. My colleagues have already told you a lot about life of Ukraine. Russian missile and drone don't spare anyone, not young or old people, not critical infrastructure, not kindergarten, not maternity house. Then I will ask my friend to help with translator. Так що у нас з фронтом?
What happened with our front line?
Як вже було сказано, фронт має протяжність понад 1200 кілометрів.
As it was already told, the front line has a length more than 1,200 kilometers.
На початку війни було охоплено всього 400 кілометрів і в двох областях – Донецькій і Луганській.
On the start of the war, there was only 400 kilometers, and only in two regions, it's Donetsk and Lugansk.
Стратегічне положення України зараз, ви бачите, що Україна практично оточена вся і залишається тільки вікно – це Захід.
Strategically, Ukraine right now surrounded by enemies except the western part.
І що з фронтом? Він стоїть завдяки слабкому місцю, яке знайшла Україна, застосування асиметричних дій дронами.
And front right now in the stalemate, it's not moving because of Ukraine found the weak point of enemy. It's asymmetrical drone fights.
Практично лінії бойового зіткнення немає.
Practically, there is no line of battle engagement.
Як вже було сказано, існує кіл-зона протяжністю 30 кілометрів в дві сторони.
As was told, there is a kill zone 40 kilometers in two sides, in 30 kilometers.
І ця зона смерті. А також є сірі зони, де ніхто не володіє ними.
And that is death zone. And also there is gray zones and no one control them.
Найгарячіші напрямки – це схід і південь.
Hottest places is south and east.
Зараз точаться бої на напрямках Покровськ, Запоріжжя і Куп'янськ.
There is battles right now on the Pokrovsk, Zaporizhia and Kupiansk.
Як я вже сказав, ця війна змінить всі рівня військового мистецтва – тактичний, оперативний і стратегічний.
This war will overshape all strategical, tactical of military mastery.
Росіяни зараз застосовують тактику просачування.
Russians right now using tactic of infiltration.
Маленькими групами від 2 до 5 чоловік вони просочуються між нашими підрозділами, кучкуються і зосереджуються в містах в тилових районах.
With the small groups for 5 persons, they infiltrate in deep of our territories and concentrate their forces in the small cities deep in our territories.
На території України зараз знаходиться понад 720 тисяч російських військ.
On the Ukrainian territory, there is right now more than 720,000 troops, Russian troops.
Співвідношення загиблих втрат складає 1 до 10, тобто 1 українець і 10 росіян.
So comparison of losses in the war, casualties, is 1 to 10. So 1 Ukrainian soldier for 10 Russian soldiers.
60% втрат Росія втрачає завдяки дронам.
60% of all casualties Russia loses because of the drone technology.
На цьому слайді показано, що всі механізовані колони, танкові колони, вони вже не мають сенсу і підлягають короткочасному знищенню.
On this slide, you could see that all transport and tanks, they are not very useful on the front line, and they could be in very short time be destroyed.
24/7 годин в повітрі знаходяться розвідники, і якщо яка-то колона з'являється, то вона через короткий час підлягає знищенню.
24 hours for 7 days, there is recon drones in the air, and if some Russian tanks appear, they will be destroyed very fast.
Залишається проблемою забезпечення і проблемою евакуації поранених з тих позицій, там, де зараз знаходяться росіяни і ми.
There is still a big problem how to supply and how to evacuate wounded soldiers on the front lines on the same positions Russian soldier appears.
Золота година врятувати пораненого воїна вже не працює.
Golden hour to save the wounded soldiers is not working.
Середній час евакуації складає понад 7 годин.
Average time of evacuation of the soldiers is 7 hours.
І ми впровадили дрони, ті, які автоматично в автоматичному режимі можуть проводити евакуацію поранених бійців.
And we provide the drones what can in automatic mode provide the evacuation of the soldiers.
І те ж саме дрони доставляють, забезпечують водою, продовольствием, всіми іншими амуніцією на позиціях, ті, які знаходяться попереду кіл-зони.
In the same way, drones supply with water, food and ammunition soldiers on the front line.
Це як приклад pictures з зони кіл-зони.
This is the sample, the pictures from the kill zone.
Контрнаступальні дії. Практично території втрачаються і території переходять з одної сторони до іншої сторони.
When counter-offensive actions going, territory are all time moving from one side to other side.
Класична система оборонних позицій і рубежів вже не діє.
Classical system of defense positions and FOB doesn't work.
Ротні опорні пункти ми перестали застосовувати в 23-му році.
Forward operational bases we stopped to use in 2023.
Взводні опорні пункти пішли в 24-му році.
Platoon positions go off 2024.
І зараз, як ви бачите, перейшли до так званих лисіх норок.
And the rest we moving to the foxhole.
Вони вириваються і тут розміщається до 3 чоловік.
They're digging up and in foxhole like this capable to have 3 soldiers.
Ніяких захисних споруд немає. Основна тільки вимога, щоб воно було замасковано.
No protectional infrastructure, only demand it's need to be disguised.
Проблема виявлення цих норок.
Sorry?
Проблема виявлення цих.
The problem is to detect these foxholes.
Але ж артилерія залишається богом війни.
But our artillery is still god of war.
Як тільки наступає погана погода, як тільки туман або дощ, або сніг, дрони не застосовуються.
As soon as bad weather coming, as soon as snow, fog, or rain, drones not working properly.
І в дії вступає артилерія.
And in these days, our artillery engage.
Саме синергія застосування дронів і артилерії приносить бажаний ефект і успіх.
Synergy of using drone and artillery in one complex bring the success.
Але проблеми з артилерією, тому що артилерія виявляється дуже швидко і наноситься короткочасове враження по позиціям артилерії.
But there is big problem with the artillery because it's easy to detect and in very short time it could be destroyed by enemy.
Для прикладу, це поле Донбаса.
For the sample, it's field of Donbass.
Воно все перепахано артилерійськими снарядами.
It's all engraved with artillery shells.
Зараз, щоб зупинити на визначеному рубежі агресора, прийнято рішення побудови суцільної лінії, як ви бачите. Зараз ця лінія будується на всьому сході України.
Now to stop our aggressor on the decided line, accept decision to build the protection line as you see on the slide. And it building all over the eastern part of Ukraine.
Зупиняючись на цьому рубежі, просто працюють хірургічно дрони.
Stopping on this line, very surgically works enemy drones.
Ми досягли значного успіху, зупинили агресора. Але ж Росія дуже спотворна тварина, яка далі рухається. І тому тільки спільними зусиллями, тільки спільними намаганнями ми можемо дати, як кажуть, оцінку правильно тим злочинцям, які виступили проти миру в цьому світі. Дуже дякую.
With a great success, we stopped the Russian offense, but it's a horrible beast who moving forward, and only with together action we can stop it from moving far away.
Thank you.
Thank you a lot.
We decided to do short information given to you. There's give more time for questions. Question is more important. I wanted to describe situation. It was what happened from beginning of war, how it was developing. So when we started fight with Russia in 2022, in my battalion we have only 2 drones, only 2 recon drones. Very useful, very expensive to us, and we use it. We care about them because it was only can give us situation awareness on battlefield. Later we received from volunteers, they provide us night vision drone. It was like big success. Why? Because you have eye during the night time and the enemy cannot surprise you. So it was very important. Daily I received order from 2 team was flying, checking enemy position. Late at night they give me report, C-trap, I analyze it and give targets for artillery, mortars and also tanks to cover, to carry about during the night time. And beginning the August 2023, UAV drones came to the battlefield, so the situation changed completely. So at least from August, I think June, July, August, 6-10 drones flying over the battlefield. It was mess, nobody understand whose drone flying. We have code words, we use signal system to inform each other, but soldiers that sitting in the trenches in the front lines, they don't care whose drone, they don't know, they shut down them. And it was expensive, everybody, but coordination, I mean, my point is that everything was going slow and it takes time to adapt tactics and adapt technology in one place. Drones significantly change battlefield, like Admiral mentioned to you, and show examples. We're just giving you examples. Today we have a lot of discussion about drones involvement, and right now Ukraine have so since 2024 fighting drones, recon drones, fixed wing drones developing a lot. So Ukraine has 500 companies that develop drones, and we have decentralized system in this process. What does it mean? It means that civilian companies can take example of drone and go to unit and ask them to taste this drone, check what quality, what the capability drone have, what need to change. It works very successfully. So we have like Ukraine writing the history of modern warfare. It's very important. So we use last step was very important that we use middle strike drones. So it helps us stop enemy. Right now situation is stabilized on the front line. Why? Because we have priority. We full in gap of middle strike from 20 to 100 kilometers. It helps us to cut down line of communications of Russia, destroyed logistic facility, and do not allow them to support forces at advance. Russia changed tactics, infiltration tactics. Ukraine find counteraction to these tactics. You know Kupiansk, maybe if somebody following this, in Kupiansk, Russia conduct using gas tube and conduct very effective operations. They keep downtown of Kupiansk, but Ukraine find counteraction. We destroyed them. It's keep one month to move them out from Kupiansk. Right now Kupiansk is like seized by Ukraine, and we defend the city. It's very important. So tactics change, battlefield change. and we need to be adaptable. It's a lot of information you receive today. My point is that drones developing. We use middle strike tactics, the drones. We stop enemy. We stabilize front of line and feel very good right now. Sea drones, new developments that help us fight successfully enemy when they are not expecting us. It's also one of principles we use fighting and destroying enemy. UGVs, unmanned ground vehicles, UGVs, it's new solution. Right now, like Admiral was mentioned, and we discussed it easier between us a lot, that situation on battlefield unpredictable. Mostly why? Because we need to replace or conduct rotation of our units, they stay. Front line is not full. We have some position that we carry in the most dangerous direction, and we have also drones flying, recon drones and attack drones that take in most dangerous direction. So we keep in positions, we defend obey our orders. But point is, when weather change, especially springtime, raining or fog, enemy infiltrate. So drones is compulsory right now. And as it was mentioned, use of artillery and drones is like main point to be successful on battlefield right now. But to be honest, we have always competition between drones and artillery. Drones mentioned it's our time, new technology, artillery mentioned we will never do without us. But together they do great job. And so if we are speaking like we have more than 500 companies developing new drones, new technology, very successfully in interception of Shaheds. And also right now 95% of all strikes at the battlefield conducted by drones that were produced in Ukraine. So it's huge success, and why our Russia counteroffensive, usually they start in spring counteroffensive, and it's dangerous. Why? Because they have more manpower, but right now we stop them. Why? Because of drones. Why? Because of we have superiority in drones on this time. Situation all time change, so we have at least 25-30% of more drones and good sustain, and also middle strike. Middle strike help us stabilize front of line. It's very important. So it is my point. Also, just briefly, so we have manpower. We don't have enough people in the front line. So infantry they keep in front line, but we don't have enough. Units right now 45, 55, sometimes 60% of many. It's not enough. So drones help us keep front line. Drones help us survive, and training teams. It's most valuable what we have right now. But again, drones position, pilot position is more. They are high value targets for Russians, and I return back to Kazyvak. So Kazyvak also a big problem. Why? Because right now everything that came inside the drone engaged zone or kill zone, many name it kill zone, destroyed. So to conduct rotation we use sometimes 3, 4, 5 days. So we have two type of people who need to go, who is younger, and people who need to carry some gear and all stuff, equipment, food, and some supply. And they walk in, sleep, and middle is like 15-20 kilometers to walk, not less than 20. They walk and sleep, walk and they have special rules. So it's really not understandable to you and complicated, but situation do not allow us to make changes. So either drones, they have drop-off point, car dropping them, and they walking. We choosing, we fly a lot, we choosing proper routes to supply front line, And another point is very critical point about Kesevac and Medivac. So Kesevac is not possible. If you wounded and you heavy wounded, it's really critical situation. Only UGV can take you from front line, and UGV sometimes also not working because Russia looking for them. So everything under control. Drone engagement, engaged zone, 30 kilometers, 25, 30, it's depend on environment, depend on many stuff. Also to stimulate our pilots, we have Ministry of Defense was established bonus system, we name it E-points. So if you destroyed, so each unit they have receive E-points to destroy the enemy. If it's much valuable, more points, after that they change it to money and can buy more equipment. So it's very stimulates our personnel, and it's very, very helpful. So very quick observe of situation on the front line. Mostly we're looking for your questions, and we give you more picture, maybe some details, what you are interested in. So thank you for your attention. My colleague.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for coming and attending this event. It's extremely important for Ukraine and for the world. My name is David. I'm a husband and a proud father of 4 children. My youngest boy, Sammy, joined the Ukrainian Army back in January. Excuse me. Sorry, y'all, I'm not used to speaking to the public. Yeah, so he got on a plane on his own without telling me and his mom, and a month after his 18th birthday, which was November 28th of last year, and he decided he was gonna go fight. Took his mom and I about a week to find out, and so when we did, of course we were all devastated, as well as his brother and sisters. And about a week later, I had gotten a call from him. He started to communicate. He was already near the front, in the Russian front line, and in the background of the phone call, I could hear bombs going off, semi-automatic fire, full auto fire, men hollering, and I decided right then to book a one-way ticket to Ukraine. Didn't know where Ukraine was, knew very little about Ukraine, didn't know anybody in Ukraine. But I decided I was gonna go get my son. Luckily, through a friendship with General Deptula, whom I didn't tell I was going, when I was waiting in Warsaw to catch the Kyiv Express to Ukraine, I had a conversation with David, and he asked me what my plan was. And I said, my plan is to get my son, or to at least see him before he goes to battle. And luckily, Dave is a part of UFF and introduced me. So when I got to Kyiv, I was in Andy Bain's hands, and Igor and the rest of the group, thank God. I arrived on a Monday afternoon, and Tuesday morning met these gentlemen, showed them a picture of my son, and Igor here got on the phone and called the general that runs the whole war. So like I said, I got really lucky. And by Friday, they were picking me up from my hotel and driving the 8-9 hour drive to the front lines where my son was. And I got to see him. He couldn't believe I was there. He's like, Dad? Dad? I'm like, yeah, it's me, buddy. But of course, he refused to leave. Begged me not to take him. Of course, he's 18, I couldn't take him. Despite the wrath I had to face when I got home to his mother. But nonetheless, I got to spend some quality time with him, even though it was short. I wished him the best of luck, told him I loved him, and told him happy hunting. I left that evening. We went to Kharkiv, stayed the night at a hotel, unfortunately next to a big utility transformer station. And that was my first real experiences of being bombed. The windows shaking, fireballs outside, whole building shaking. And the next morning as we left the hotel, we got to see the destruction right there where we were staying. Buildings blown up, smoking. And that's when reality really set in. So I had to ask myself as a father, what can I do? You know, this is a big war. I don't speak the language. I don't know the people. And I'd never met a Russian. So I got back home and I decided that I'm gonna do everything that I can, even though I don't know what that is, but I'll figure it out. And so I went back the following month to Ukraine. As I told my son, I promised him that as long as you're here, I'm gonna be here. And so I went back the second time a month later, and I spent 2 weeks, and luckily again, because of the Ukrainian Freedom Fund, I had the blessed opportunity to travel and tour the front lines, meet commanders and other units and battalions, and also get to spend more time with my son. And when I was there with my son in Kramatorsk, while we were being bombed, he introduced me to his team. And I'm standing there and I'm looking at over 20 guys, mostly 18 and 19-year-old. They represented 86 countries, all volunteers. And over half of them were American young men. And I realized then, standing there looking at these young men, that it's just not my son, but it's my fellow countrymen. Young boys, young women. Believe it or not, there's actually girls over there fighting too, and they're pretty badass. And I realized right then and there that this is truly freedom's front line. This is not just a Ukrainian war. This is everybody's war. 86 countries represented in volunteers, not conscripts, not forced, but volunteered. Young American, British, Canadian, young men going all the way to Ukraine to fight for freedom on the Russian front line. So I decided right then that I would do everything that I can to help. So I've helped raise money, I put up money, we bought trucks, loaded them up with generators, and drone supplies and medical supplies, and we deliver them directly to the front line. The biggest need that I saw and observed, having never been obviously involved in a war or even having been in the military, is that the lack of resources that the Ukrainians have. The lack of resources that I saw in my son's unit, which as Americans, we think if our boys are at war, they're being fully supported with everything. Best guns, all the ammunition they need, vehicles, medical, training. And I quickly realized that's not the case there. Training is very tough because the best of Ukrainian soldiers, most experienced, are dead. The ones that are not can't afford to leave the front line, as he expressed how thin it is, manpower-wise. So the training is left to less skilled individuals. The equipment is allocated more to the frontline battle than the training. The unit only received 1 hour of medical training. And as he mentioned earlier, because of the drones and the type of war this is, you're not going to be evacuated quickly like you are if you're in an American war. You may be there for 3 or 4 days before you actually get out. So I hired a medic, a retired British fellow, and Igor got it approved through the general to allow him to go to my son's unit and start giving 5-day training courses in advanced medical treatment to all the kids coming out of boot camp. So that's been various. We have 2 of them so far. We did one last month and we just finished one this month. And so, again, just recognizing that our boys are over there on the front line, freedom's front line, and the help that they need and everything that we can do to support them. It may be on the other side of the world, but in our hearts it's right here at home. And so thank you guys very much.
Okay, folks, it's your opportunity to take advantage of this set of individuals who provide some very, very unique perspectives to ask them anything that you might be interested in.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. I was up here earlier and I can't imagine what the feelings and experiences you must have went through. It must be very overwhelming. It must be very difficult. And I'm not going to pretend to understand what you've been through, gentlemen, especially you, sir, as a father. And I think your son is a very, very brave man. And I think you raised a very good man, sir. And I am very thankful to you two gentlemen and everyone here for their, I was talking to my Ukrainian friend. I'm not going to use her name. I'm just going to use her handle, they call it. It's a 2DSKD. And she lives in Sumy. And one of the things that we talked about was that the current generation of Ukrainians reminds me of our greatest generation, because they were our greatest generation because they stood up and they served when the country needed them, just like the current generation of Ukrainians are doing so now. And I think that that's going to be an example for Ukrainians for generations to come. And as an American, I'm actually very thankful that the people of Ukraine have been very helpful in showing and sharing what they've experienced and went through in terms of the war. As an example, I mentioned earlier, forgive my pronunciation, but Sergei, how do you pronounce the name? Sergei Plus? But he's a Ukrainian American author, and I've also, United 24 has been really great in showing what's been going on the front lines. And also, you may recognize this, but Kings and Generals has been very good at showing what's been going on with the war in Ukraine. And I don't really have a question, honestly. I just wanted to say that, all of us here are extremely grateful and thankful for your sacrifices. And I thought about what you said, David, about how it's the front line of freedom, and I think for the cause of Ukraine, it's not just a flag that, something that you just put on a bumper sticker. It's like, it's much, much more. And I think a lot of people forget that, but I think that a lot of people like us here, we're very, very, extremely grateful for your sacrifices and your hard work, keeping the people of Ukraine, and keeping us safe as well. And keeping aggression from becoming the norm, like Russia's aggression. I often wonder how their leaders actually sleep at night for what they've done to your people. But
Thanks very much for those comments. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much, sir. Semper Fidelis, sir. Lance Corporal Casher, United States Marine.
So my question will draw on your experiences as well, General. Going through how the U.S. would do air operations, how we've evolved from Desert Storm through OEF, OIF, and now with Operation Epic Fury, I have a pretty good idea in my mind how we would fight an air war. The opinion of what do you think the ability of the Russian military to fight a war? Obviously, we're past that stage at this point in Ukraine. What threat do you still perceive with them in a Russia versus NATO campaign? And then I'm just curious how the Ukrainian Air Forces, do they have an AOC type concept with the Central Air Plan? Because we've talked about strategic, operational, and tactical drones, and I assume that the tactical ones are down at the battle, the on-site commanders, but are we still doing a AOC daily airplane type of strategy, which you've seen, and what they would think about that? And I'll sit down.
Yeah, no, great question. First, the short answer to your question is no. They do not have the same kind of operational air doctrine that the United States does. But that should not be a surprise. First, remember, the Ukrainian military grew up underneath Soviet doctrine. So part of what the job and the benefit that UFF provides is training to the Ukrainian military in each of the different services on transitioning from Soviet methodology to Western way of war. Back to the air piece, because you kind of zeroed in on that. Most people were surprised with the Russian performance. It even surprised the US intelligence community, who thought that the Russians would be in Kyiv and overwhelm it in 3 days. Not so much. When you look at history, when you look at, and don't mirror image as most US citizens attempt to do, and look at the situation from the reality of what's going on in Russia, you find out really quickly that, number one, the Russian Air Force is very poorly led. Meritocracy is not how you get ahead in the Russian military. Corruption is. And that's not a very good motivator for performance. Number two, very poor training. You know, we are very proud in the US military of understanding that you're going to fight the way you train. So you better train well. Not so much with Russia. Number three, the equipment the Russians have isn't all that it's cracked up to be. So the combination, and then number four, sorry, I could go on, but number four, Russian military doctrine is very different, particularly air power doctrine. They don't think about the independent, strategic, and operational level effects that air power can achieve if it's used in an effects-based fashion. They only treat it as an extension of ground forces, which suboptimizes its real utility. So even though they had a much, much larger Air Force, they were never able to achieve air superiority over the front, which, now let me just real briefly talk about Ukrainian Air Force. They didn't have the capacity. Okay, we're talking about less than 100 operational aircraft. Furthermore, the aircraft that they were operating were old Soviet-style aircraft. So they just simply didn't have the capacity nor the capability to achieve air superiority over the Russians. So that's where we end up with this clash of forces on the ground that's closer to World War I in 1914, 15, 16, 17 than it is to 2026. And if you want to look at the difference, take a look at what the Israelis did in the summer of 25 and what we just got through accomplishing against some very, very significant air defenses. So I hope that provides a little insight to your question. Well, I'll open it up to any comments from Admiral or Colonel.
Ну, я не буду за... Генерал сказав щодо технічної частини.
General told about technical part of the stuff.
Я скажу щодо моральної частини.
I will tell about moral part.
Кажуть, що українці і росіяни – це два слов'янських народи.
There is told that Ukrainian and Russians is two Slavic nations.
Це неправда.
It's not true.
Моя бабуся з самих років моєї юності, ну, молодості де там.
My grandma from my youth,
Вона мені казала, дивись, самий страшний ворог – це Росія.
she told me that the most horrific enemy is Russia.
Я родом із східного регіону, з-під Харкова.
My origin is from eastern region of Ukraine.
Якщо
Kharkiv.
брати мозок наш і росіянин, це зовсім два інших поняття і два інших думки.
If took our brain and Russian brain, it's two completely different understanding and thoughts.
Росія ніколи не позбулась рабства. Росія завжди живе з царем.
Russia was never reject the slavery. Russia always live with a king.
Зараз нічого не залишається для Путіна, як об'явити ще мобілізацію. Тому що йому не жалко своїх людей.
There is nothing left for Putin than apply enlistment for the Russians because he don't care about his people.
Хто може сказати, скільки Росія втратила в нашій війні вже?
Who can tell how much people Russia lost in this war?
Понад 1,3 мільйона.
More than 1,300,000 people.
Яка країна втрачає в сучасному світі стільки людей?
What country in modern world lose such a lot of people?
Я не беру Північну Корею,
I don't mention North Korea.
не беру фанатиків Ірана і інших мусульман.
Don't mention fanatic Iran people and other Muslim countries.
Ну вони ж в цивілізованому світі живуть.
But they live in the civil world. Civilized world. Sorry.
Thank you again for sharing your stories. And I realized that when you were answering one of the last questions, you mentioned that people in the Russian military rise to power through corruption, whereas in other militaries, it's through training and productivity. Would you say that Ukraine has superior commanders to Russia?
Well, my short answer would be yes. And that's obvious in a variety, or from a variety of different indicators. The Admiral will expand.
У мене дуже широкий спектр був служби.
I have a wide spectrum of the military service.
Я починав з танкової школи,
I start from the tank school
а закінчив інспектором МАД.
And ended as an inspector in military in government, Ministry of Defense.
І я так довелося, що я був chief персонал Генерального штабу Збройних сил.
I was chief personnel of General Command of Ukrainian forces.
Я можу порівняти, як Росія по старим радянським методикам проводить супроводження кар'єрного зростання офіцерського складу.
I can compare how Russia make personal management and getting new ranks of officer troops.
Україна почала реформу проведення персоналу десь в 2008 році.
Ukraine started reformatting personal system from 2008.
Проблеми є. Але ж у нас дуже швидко вчиться командний склад. У нас дуже швидко зараз іде просування по службі, ті, які мають бойовий досвід.
There is the problems in the system, but right now is very rapidly people getting new ranks.
Давайте порівняємо главкома Росії 70-літнього Герасимова.
Let's compare the chief of army in Russia. It's 70 years old, Gerasimov.
І главкова наша Сирська. Давайте зрівняємо 70-річного командувача Герасимова і нашого главкома 60-річного Сирського.
And our commander, 60 years old, Syrsky.
Всі доктринальні документи Радянського Союзу, вибачте, тут вже казали, зовсім інша філософія западна і східна.
All Russian is old Soviet doctrine, then Ukrainian one is Western.
Основна задача російських командирів – це послати своїх солдат на смерть.
The main task of Russian commanders is send their soldiers to
Вони їх не жаліють.
death, and they don't care about them.
краще воювати. Вони воювали завжди так. Коли ще Жуков казав, жінки ще наражають. І вони зараз так воюють.
They always were in this way. The Admiral Commander Zhukov from the Soviet army told women will born more.
З нашим главковим я був ще комбатом, служив в об'єднаному оперативному командуванні, і тому що ця людина розумна і способна воювати зовсім іншими філософією, зовсім іншими методами.
With our chief commander Sirski, I was from the younger years, and he's a very smart person, and he capable to war in very good way.
Okay, thanks very much for your question. We have time for one more.
So I was curious, I know how the United States military draws information from past conflicts to better understand what a future conflict in such a region would be like. Studying the Korean War can tell us some of what a possible future Asian conflict could be like. World War II can tell us about Western Europe. Are there any conflicts or past wars that the Ukrainian military can draw information from for their current war with Russia?
Well, the short answer is yes. And all of what you're describing is ensconced in military doctrine. Doctrine is the collection of not just examples, but experiences that have resulted in success. Yet at the same time, every conflict is different. And so the appropriate understanding of military doctrine is to let it act as a guide, but not preclude the future. Because obviously there are tactics, techniques, and procedures. You heard about some of them already described today with the use of drones and how that changes the methodologies that are used that the combatants need to adjust to and incorporate, but fundamentally, the nature of war doesn't change, the techniques do. So yes, there are lots of examples from studying history. What military leaders are faced with is the challenge of how do you adapt those lessons learned into the reality of what's going on today. So thanks very much for your question.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end of our time. I want to thank you all for being here today, for your attention, and for your thoughtful engagement. Please join me in expressing sincere thanks to our panelists for sharing their time, their insights, and their experiences with us today. Thank you for your attention and have a great rest of the day.